The morning I discovered my husband's vasectomy records, I was organizing our tax documents and humming along to a podcast about container gardening. That's how most life-changing moments happen, I suppose. Not with thunder and lightning, but with spreadsheets and the smell of coffee going cold in a forgotten mug. I'm Jade Collins, 34 years old, professional home stager, and part-time HOA compliance secretary for the Meadowbrook Estates. That second title sounds tedious, I know. Most people glaze over when I mention it at parties. But here's what they don't understand. Being HOA secretary means I have access to everything. Vendor logs, camera placement maps, violation histories, insurance claims. It's like being a librarian in a building full of everyone's secrets, and nobody thinks to lock the doors because who would want to read something as boring as municipal code violations? My husband Brady thought I took the position because I'm a busybody with nothing better to do. He'd laugh about it with his business partner, Marcus Hale. Jade's out there measuring hedges again, can you believe it? Not realizing I was also documenting which houses were running illegal short-term rentals, which construction crews were dumping waste in the retention pond, and which real estate developers were holding after-hours meetings at the community pool. Brady Collins. 36 years old, square jaw, perfect teeth, a handshake that lingered just long enough to make you feel special. He sold luxury properties the way other people sold dreams, with confidence and just enough charm to make you ignore the fine print. We'd been married for 6 years, together for 8, and for the last 3 months, he'd barely looked at me. The distance started gradually. A late meeting here, a business dinner there. Then the late meetings became overnight trips, and the business dinners became weekends away at investor conferences. When I tried to talk about it, he'd smile that patient smile, the one he used on difficult clients, and tell me I was being paranoid. 3 months ago, after another round of negative pregnancy tests and my third appointment with a fertility specialist, Brady sat across from me at our kitchen island and said, "Maybe we should accept reality here, Jade. You're barren. You can never be a mother." The word barren hit me like a slap. Not infertile, not struggling with conception. Barren. Like I was a field that had failed to produce crops, a desert where nothing would ever grow. I'd cried that night, alone in our guest room, while Brady slept peacefully in our king-size bed. I'd questioned everything, my body, my worth, my purpose. I'd made appointments with more specialists, researched alternative treatments, even looked into adoption options. And all the while, buried in a file folder labeled Insurance Pre-Marriage 2017, were the records that would eventually crack my entire world open and reveal the foundation of rot underneath. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to 3 weeks ago, when everything finally came to a head. Before we deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. Brady had been dropping hints about wanting to talk about our future for several days. He'd suggested dinner at the Founders Club, the country club restaurant where everyone who matters in Meadowbrook Estates goes to see and be seen. White tablecloths, candlelight, waiters who know your name and your usual order. I'd agreed, naturally. I even wore the navy dress he'd bought me for our anniversary, the one that made me look elegant and appropriate, the one that made me invisible in all the right ways. I arrived early and chose a table near the window, where the evening light would hit just right, where half the room could see us without being obvious about it. I saw Margaret Chen from the PTA 3 tables over, Dr. Raymond Foster and his wife near the bar, Brady's mother, Elaine, holding court at a corner booth with her book club friends. Perfect. Brady arrived 15 minutes late, apologetic smile in place, and slid into his chair with the easy grace of someone who'd never doubted his welcome anywhere. "Sorry, babe. Last-minute call with a client." "Of course," I said, smiling. I'd already ordered wine, a nice Pinot Noir, his favorite. "How was your day?" We made small talk. He told me about a new development opportunity in the north end of town. I told him about a staging job for a Victorian renovation. Normal conversation. Pleasant. Boring. Then he cleared his throat. Jade, I asked you here because we need to have an honest conversation about where we're headed. I folded my hands in my lap, kept my expression neutral. Okay. I think you know things haven't been working between us for a while now. And with the fertility issues. I want to be a father, Jade. I've always wanted kids. I can't just pretend that doesn't matter. Before I could respond, the restaurant door opened and Hannah Vale walked in. Hannah, 29 years old, Brady's operations manager at his boutique real estate firm. Blonde highlights that probably cost more than my car payment. Pilates toned body wrapped in a beige cashmere dress. The kind of woman who posts motivational quotes on Instagram next to photos of her green juice and perfect life. She walked straight to our table, one hand resting protectively on her stomach, a stomach that showed the unmistakable curve of pregnancy, maybe 5 months along. The restaurant noise seemed to dim. I watched Margaret Chen's fork pause halfway to her mouth. Elaine Collins's book club friends swiveled in their seats like a synchronized swim team. Brady stood, pulled out a chair for Hannah with exaggerated gentleness. She sat, giving me a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Jade, Brady said, his voice taking on that careful, therapeutic tone people use when delivering bad news to children. Hannah and I have something to tell you. We've been seeing each other for several months now, and she's pregnant. With my child. Our child. He reached across the table and took Hannah's hand. We didn't plan for it to happen this way, but sometimes life gives you unexpected gifts. And I realized I can't keep living a hollow life with someone who can't give me what I need. I want to be with someone who can build a real family with me. Hannah's smile widened. Her other hand moved to her stomach again, a gesture of protection and possession at once. I looked at them both, Brady's earnest expression, Hannah's triumphant glow, and felt a strange calm settle over me. The same calm I felt when I was staging a difficult property, when all the pieces finally clicked into place and I could see exactly how the room should look. Congratulations, I said softly. That's wonderful news. Brady blinked, clearly expecting tears or anger. You're taking this well. Oh, Brady, I've known about you and Hannah for months. I reached into my purse and pulled out a manila envelope, the kind you might use for medical records or legal documents. But there's something you should probably see before we go any further with this conversation. I placed the envelope on the table between the wine glasses and the breadbasket. Brady stared at it like it might explode. What is that? Open it. His hand trembled slightly as he picked it up. Hannah leaned in, curious now, her smile fading at the edges. Brady pulled out the papers inside. I'd organized them carefully, chronologically, with highlights on the relevant sections. The top document was a letter from Dr. Lawrence Mitchell, urologist, dated April 2015. I watched the color drain from Brady's face as he read. This confirms, the letter stated in neat medical terminology, that the vasectomy procedure performed on Brady Collins on April 8, 2015, was successful. Follow-up analysis shows 0 sperm count. Patient should be considered permanently sterile unless reversal is sought. Patient declined reversal consultation. The second document was an insurance claim form from 2015, showing Brady had paid out of pocket for the procedure, probably so it wouldn't show up on our shared insurance once we married in 2017. The third was a printed email exchange between Brady and a concierge medical practice, dated 8 months ago, where he'd inquired about timeline expectations for partner pregnancy announcement and how to handle perception management with family. Hannah snatched the papers from Brady's hands, her eyes scanning rapidly. Her face went from pale to flushed to pale again in the space of 3 seconds. You had a vasectomy? Her voice came out as a strangled whisper. Before you even met Jade? Hannah, Brady started, but she cut him off. You told me you'd been trying with her for years. You said she was the one with the problem. You said—" She looked down at her stomach, and I saw the moment the realization hit her. The moment she understood what I'd already figured out weeks ago. The baby wasn't Brady's. It couldn't be. "I didn't come here to ruin your evening," I said, my voice steady and clear enough that Margaret Chen definitely heard it 3 tables over. "I came to start the clock." I stood, smoothed down my dress, and picked up my purse. Brady grabbed my wrist. "Jade, wait. We can explain." I looked at his hand on my wrist, then up at his face. "Can you, though? Because I'd love to hear how you explain calling me Barren when you're the one who chose to be sterile. Or how you explain a pregnancy that defies medical impossibility. Or, and this is my favorite part, how you explain this to your mother." I nodded toward the corner booth, where Elaine Collins sat frozen, her face a mask of horror and fury. Brady dropped my hand like it had burned him. I leaned down, close enough that only our table could hear. "The envelope you're holding? That's copy number 3. Copy number 1 is with my lawyer. Copy number 2 is with your mother's attorney. She had me served with a pre-litigation notice last month about family trust issues, so I figured she'd want to know about the medical fraud before we got into court." Hannah made a small choking sound. I straightened up, smiled at the room in general, at Margaret Chen, at Dr. Foster, at the waiter hovering uncertainly with our appetizer order, and walked toward the exit. Behind me, I heard Hannah's voice rise. "Brady, if you can't have children, then who's—" I didn't stay to hear the rest. I had places to be. The parking garage was dim and quiet, most diners already settled in for their meals. I'd parked on the top level, where the evening breeze cut through the heat and you could see the whole development spread out below like a circuit board. I was halfway to my car when I heard running footsteps. Brady burst through the stairwell door, Hannah stumbling after him in her heels. His face was red, his perfectly styled hair disheveled. "You can't do this," he shouted across the empty garage. "You can't just humiliate me like that in front of everyone." I kept walking toward my car, keys already in hand. "I didn't humiliate you, Brady. You did that yourself when you lied to your pregnant mistress about being able to father her child. Give me your phone." He was close now, reaching for Hannah's designer clutch. "Whatever proof you think you have, whatever else you've collected—" Hannah yanked her purse away. "Don't touch my things." "I need to see what she has on us." He lunged for the purse again. I'd reached my car by then, a practical Honda Civic, nothing flashy. I unlocked it, opened the door, and positioned myself behind it like a shield. Brady and Hannah were arguing now, their voices echoing off the concrete pillars. He grabbed for her phone. She twisted away. He followed. I started my engine and pulled forward slowly, angling my car to block the direct path to the exit ramp. Not a collision, just a strategic positioning, like a chess piece controlling key squares. Brady turned, realized what I was doing, and sprinted toward the gap between my car and a concrete pillar. Hannah chased after him, still clutching her phone. I rolled down my window. "Hannah, you might want to check your messages. The ones you sent to Marcus Hale about the pregnancy test results. The ones with his initials in the subject line." Hannah froze mid-step. Her thumb moved automatically to her phone. Brady wheeled around. "Marcus? What does Marcus have to do with—" I didn't wait to watch the rest of the revelation unfold. I put my car in drive and headed down the exit ramp, leaving them in the rearview mirror. 2 people realizing their careful lies had intersected in the worst possible way. By the time I got home, my phone had 17 text messages, 9 missed calls, and 3 voicemails. I ignored all of them. Instead, I poured myself a glass of wine, sat at my kitchen table, and opened my laptop. I had work to do. My neighbor Victor Hale lived in the house 3 doors down, a tidy brick colonial with perfect hedges and a garden that made the HOA swoon. He was 72, retired from 40 years as a forensic accountant, and had the kind of sharp, patient intelligence that made you want to confess secrets just so he could help you organize them. I'd been bringing him casseroles and checking his mail for the past year, ever since his wife Eleanor passed. In return, he taught me chess on his back porch and occasionally offered observations about neighborhood finances that were probably supposed to sound casual, but were actually pointed lessons. 3 months ago, when I first suspected Brady was hiding something, I'd asked Victor a hypothetical question about tracking money through shell companies. He'd looked at me over his reading glasses and said, "Paper is a weapon, Jade. You just have to know where to cut." That's when the real education began. The morning after the restaurant incident, I knocked on Victor's door with coffee and a folder full of documents. He opened the door in his cardigan and slippers, took one look at my face and said, "I saw the next door posts. Should I assume your hypothetical questions are no longer hypothetical? I need to learn how to dismantle someone's entire life using only publicly available information and things I legally have access to." Victor smiled, a thin, sharp smile that reminded me why criminals used to confess during his depositions. "Come in. We have work to do." We spread the documents across his dining room table like a military campaign. Victor taught me how to cross-reference vendor lists from HOA contracts with Brady's real estate firm, how to spot timeline overlaps between business trips and Hannah's social media posts, how to trace shell company formations through county records that anyone could access with a library card and patience. "The key," Victor explained, tapping a highlighted section of an HOA vendor agreement, "is that you're not hacking anything. You're not fabricating evidence. You're simply organizing existing facts into a pattern that reveals the truth." He showed me how Brady had been using HOA-approved contractors for his personal projects, billing them to different LLCs, and creating a paper trail that looked legitimate on the surface but fell apart under scrutiny. "Here." Victor circled a name on a landscaping invoice. "This company did work at your house last summer, correct?" "Yes. Brady said it was his gift to me. New flower beds and a pergola." "And here's the same company, same date range, billing to Meadowbrook Development Holdings LLC, which is registered to Brady and Marcus. They charged the HOA for repairs to common area landscaping that never happened and pocketed the difference." I stared at the numbers. $12,000. For flower beds I thought were a romantic gesture. That's fraud. Potentially, but proving it would require an audit, lawyers, time. Here's a better question. What does the HOA charter say about financial conflicts of interest? I pulled up the bylaws on my laptop. Section 7.3. Board members and contractors must disclose any financial relationships that could constitute a conflict of interest. Failure to disclose may result in immediate removal from vendor lists and referral to the state licensing board. Victor nodded. "And as HOA compliance secretary, you're required to report potential violations, not accusations, just facts that need review. You file a routine inquiry, the board reviews the vendor list, and suddenly Brady's entire contractor network is under a microscope. That would destroy his business." "No," Victor said gently. "His choices already destroyed his business. You're just opening the curtains." We worked through the afternoon, building what Victor called a pressure campaign, a sequence of perfectly legal, perfectly timed actions that would force Brady to respond on multiple fronts at once. First, HOA violation notices for properties Brady was managing. The illegal short-term rental at 847 Maple Ridge Drive. The unpermitted construction at 1242 Elderberry Court. The landscaping violations at 6 different listings. Every single one documented with photos I'd taken during my regular compliance rounds. Second, formal board inquiry into vendor relationships, triggered by my routine report of a pattern requiring review. Third, anonymous tips to the Better Business Bureau and State Real Estate Licensing Board about potential conflicts of interest. Anonymous, yes, but based entirely on public records anyone could access. The beauty of this approach, Victor explained, is that you're not attacking him directly. You're simply doing your job with unusual thoroughness. If he's innocent, the scrutiny won't find anything. If he's not, then he buries himself trying to cover it up. Exactly. My phone buzzed. A text from Brady. We need to talk. Like adults, please. I showed it to Victor. He read it and snorted. Adults. That's rich, coming from a man who orchestrated a public pregnancy announcement to shame his wife into accepting a separation. Should I respond? Not yet. Let him marinate in uncertainty. Every hour you don't respond, he'll imagine worse scenarios. Meanwhile, you prepare the next move. I stayed until dinner, learning the language of bureaucratic warfare. How to file things in the right order. Which boards reviewed which violations. What triggered automatic investigations versus manual ones. When I finally went home, I found Brady's car in our driveway and every light in the house blazing. He was sitting at the kitchen island with a glass of scotch, his third, judging by the bottle level. His tie was loosened, his shirt wrinkled. He looked like he'd aged 5 years in 24 hours. Where have you been? He demanded when I walked in. I've been calling you all day. I was working. I set my bag down, kept my voice neutral. Did you need something? Did I? Jade, you can't just drop a bomb like that and disappear. We have to discuss this. Discuss what? Your vasectomy? Your affair? The fact that Hannah's baby definitely isn't yours? He flinched. It's more complicated than that. Is it? I opened the refrigerator, scanning for dinner options with the same casual attention I'd give any normal evening. Because it seems pretty straightforward to me. You had a vasectomy before we met. You lied about it. You blamed me for our fertility issues. You started an affair with your employee. She got pregnant by someone else. You planned this whole restaurant ambush to humiliate me into accepting a separation. Which part am I misunderstanding? I was going to tell you about the procedure eventually. I just needed time to figure out how. I turned to look at him. You had 6 years, Brady. You had dozens of opportunities to tell me the truth. Instead, you watched me go through test after test, treatment after treatment, blaming myself for something that was never my fault. I made a mistake when I was young. I thought I never wanted kids, so I took care of it. Then I met you, and I changed my mind, but I was afraid you'd leave if you knew. So I just kept putting it off. And the affair? He looked away. Hannah was a mistake too. It just happened. Things don't just happen, Brady. You chose to lie to her the same way you lied to me. You told her you wanted a family. You made her think the pregnancy was this miracle that proved we were meant to be together. Did you know the baby wasn't yours when you planned that restaurant scene? His silence was answer enough. I closed the refrigerator door. Suddenly, I wasn't hungry. So you knew Marcus was the father, and you used Hannah's pregnancy anyway as a weapon to hurt me. That's genuinely sociopathic, Brady. Even for you. I never meant to hurt you. I just wanted out of this marriage, and I needed a clean break. Something that would make people understand why we were separating. Oh, well, mission accomplished. Everyone definitely understands now. He stood up, moving toward me. Jade, please. We can work this out. I'll pay for whatever counseling you want. We can figure out the house, the finances, all of it. Just please don't destroy my career over this. I'm not destroying your career. I'm filing routine HOA compliance reports that happen to mention your name. If your business practices are solid, you have nothing to worry about. His expression shifted from pleading to something harder. You filed violations on my properties? On properties that appear to be violating community standards, yes. It's literally my job. This is revenge. You're trying to sabotage me. No, Brady. Revenge would be spray painting liar on Hannah's leased BMW. Revenge would be forwarding your vasectomy records to every single person on your company email list. Revenge would be posting the prenatal DNA test results that Hannah stupidly shared in that private Facebook group she thinks is secret. I paused. This is just me doing my job with enthusiasm. He grabbed my arm, his grip tight enough to hurt. You need to stop whatever you're planning, right now. I looked down at his hand, then up at his face. My voice came out very calm. Let go of me. Not until you promise. If you don't let go, I will walk out this door, drive straight to the police station, and file a domestic assault report. Then I'll drive to your mother's house and show her the security footage from our Ring camera showing you grabbing me. Then I'll post it on Nextdoor with a warning about neighborhood safety concerns. Do you understand? He released me like I'd burned him. Good. Now get out of my house. It's my house, too. Then I'll leave. I grabbed my keys and bag. But when the HOA board requests your presence at next week's vendor review meeting, I strongly suggest you attend. They take undisclosed conflicts of interest very seriously. I walked out, got in my car, and drove to Leah Ortiz's house across the development. Leah was a nurse at Meadowbrook General, divorced, and the kind of friend who would let you show up at 9 p.m. without questions. She took one look at my face and poured wine. So, she said once we were settled on her couch, I heard about the restaurant. Margaret Chen's group chat has been working overtime. I bet. Hannah Vale's baby isn't Brady's. Nope. But she doesn't know that yet. Oh, she knows. I told her to check her messages with Marcus. She'll figure it out if she hasn't already. Leah whistled. You're playing three-dimensional chess while they're playing checkers. Victor's been teaching me. Victor Hale, the sweet old man with the rose garden? Victor Hale, the forensic accountant who spent 40 years making white-collar criminals cry during depositions. He's teaching me how to destroy someone using only publicly available information and bureaucratic patience. Leah grinned. I knew I liked him. So what's the plan? I told her. The HOA violations, the vendor review, the carefully timed disclosures designed to make Brady look increasingly suspicious without me ever making a direct accusation. That's vicious, Leah said admiringly. Also completely legal. I'm impressed. I need your help with something. Name it. Brady's going to try to control the narrative. He'll make this about me being a vindictive wife who can't accept the end of the marriage. I need people to know the truth, the vasectomy, the lies, the setup at the restaurant. You want me to gossip? I want you to share factual information with concerned friends. There's a difference. Leah raised her wine glass. I'll have coffee with Margaret Chen tomorrow morning. By noon, everyone in Meadowbrook will know Brady called you Barren while secretly sterile. By dinner, they'll know about Hannah's paternity situation. By bedtime, they'll be wondering what else he's lying about. Thank you. Jade? Leah's voice turned serious. Are you okay? Really? I thought about that. Was I okay? My marriage was over. My husband had orchestrated my public humiliation. I was about to launch a campaign that would likely destroy his career and reputation. Yeah, I said finally. I think I am. The next week moved like a chess game, each piece sliding into position with quiet precision. Monday, the HOA violation notices went out. Brady received 7 of them by certified mail, 1 for each property where I'd documented violations. The homeowners received copies too, which meant Brady immediately got angry calls from clients demanding to know why their supposedly compliant rental properties were being flagged. Tuesday. The vendor review meeting was scheduled for the following week. An agenda was posted to the community board listing review of contractor relationships and potential conflicts of interest as item 3, right between pool renovation update and holiday decoration guidelines. Wednesday, Margaret Chen invited Leah to the Wednesday morning PTA coffee social. By Thursday, 3 different people had texted me with concerned messages about what I'd been going through. Friday, Hannah Vale's Instagram went dark. No motivational quotes, no pregnancy updates, nothing. Saturday, I got a call from Officer Daria Bloom, the community liaison officer who occasionally attended HOA meetings and whose daughter went to school with my niece. Jade? Hey, it's Daria. I heard you might be dealing with some domestic issues. I wanted to check in. We met at a coffee shop outside the development. Daria was in civilian clothes, jeans and a Meadowbrook General sweatshirt from her wife's hospital, but she had that calm, assessing cop energy that never quite turned off. Leah said you might be worried about escalation. Daria said, stirring her latte, that your husband got physical. He grabbed my arm. I handled it. Do you want to file a report? Not right now, but I wanted to ask you about something else. If I have documentation of someone using HOA resources for personal gain, billing fraudulent work to common area budgets, what's the right way to report that? Daria's expression sharpened. That would be theft from a homeowners association, which is a civil matter unless it crosses into criminal fraud territory. How much money are we talking about? Potentially 50 or 60,000 over 2 years. Maybe more. She let out a low whistle. That's felony territory if you can prove intent to defraud. You'd want to report it to both the HOA board and potentially the county prosecutor's office. But Jade, if you're going after your husband for financial crimes, make absolutely sure your evidence is solid. Defense attorneys love to paint wives as vindictive liars who fabricate records during divorces. Everything I have is documentary evidence. Invoices, emails, bank records, contractor testimony. Victor Hale has been helping me organize it. Victor? Daria laughed. Oh, Brady is screwed. Victor doesn't miss details. She sobered. Look, I can't give you legal advice, but I can tell you that if your husband realizes you're building a case, he might do something stupid. Do you have somewhere safe to stay? I'm staying with Leah for now. Good. Keep your phone charged, vary your routine, and if he shows up anywhere unexpectedly, call me. I'll respond personally. That evening, I got a text from Brady. I know what you're doing. This is extortion. Stop now, or I'll go to the police. I showed it to Victor during our evening session at his dining table. Empty threat, Victor said immediately. He can't report you to the police for filing legitimate HOA violations and conducting routine compliance reviews. And if he tries to claim you're extorting him, he'll have to explain what you're supposedly threatening to expose, which will open up the entire fraud investigation. So I just ignore it? No. You respond with exactly the right amount of bland confusion. Victor typed out a suggested response on his phone and showed me. I'm not sure what you mean. I'm simply fulfilling my duties as HOA compliance secretary. If you have concerns about any of the notices, you can address them at next week's board meeting. I sent it. 5 minutes later, Brady called. I didn't answer. He called again. And again. On the 4th attempt, I blocked his number. Sunday morning, I drove to the community pool to check on a reported equipment issue. The pool closed for the season in September, but we kept the equipment running for maintenance and the occasional board-approved event. This particular Sunday, at 6 a.m., the gate code had been used 4 times between 11 p.m. and 2 a.m. the previous night. The entry log showed Brady's access fob. I parked near the equipment shed and walked the perimeter with my phone camera recording. Empty beer bottles in the recycling bin, cigar butts near the loungers, and, most interesting, fresh tire tracks from a vehicle that had been driven onto the pool deck area, which was explicitly forbidden by HOA regulations. The damage was minor. Some scuffed pavement, a knocked-over planter, but it was documented. More importantly, the access logs showed exactly who was responsible. I was reviewing the footage when I heard a vehicle pull up. Brady's truck. He got out, saw me, and strode across the parking lot with purpose. What are you doing here? Investigating an equipment malfunction report. What are you doing here? I'm on the pool committee. I have every right to be here. At 6 a.m. on a Sunday, the pool is closed for the season, Brady, and according to the access logs, you and 3 other fobs were here until 2 a.m., hosting some kind of event. Policy 8.3 prohibits after-hours use without board approval. I had approval. Verbal approval from the chairman. Then you'll have no problem explaining that at the vendor review meeting. I gestured to the tire tracks, along with whoever drove a vehicle onto the pool deck and damaged association property. He followed my gesture, and I watched his face go through several expressions: surprise, anger, calculation. That wasn't me. Someone else must have. Someone with your access fob, who attended an event you organized at a facility you have keys to. I smiled. I'm sure the board will believe you. He took a step toward me. I took a step back, keeping the equipment shed between us. You need to stop this, Jade. Right now, before you do something you regret. Is that a threat? It's a warning. You're embarrassing yourself. Everyone knows you're just a bitter wife who can't accept that the marriage is over. Actually, according to Margaret Chen's group chat, everyone knows I'm the wife whose husband called her Barren while secretly sterile. But sure, let's go with your version. His face flushed. You had no right to share private medical information. I shared it with my lawyer and your mother's attorney, both of whom needed it for legal proceedings you initiated. What they chose to do with it afterward is their business. I held up my phone, still recording. Now, unless you have approved business here, I'm going to have to ask you to leave association property. You can't kick me out. I live here. You live at 1847 Sycamore Court. This is the community pool facility. And as compliance secretary, I absolutely can ask you to leave if you're interfering with an official inspection. For a moment, I thought he might actually grab me again. His hands clenched. His jaw worked. Then he turned and walked back to his truck, got in, and drove away with more speed than necessary. I waited until he was gone, then walked to the pool equipment shed. The door was unlocked, another violation. Inside, the filter system hummed normally, but there were signs of recent activity. Fresh footprints in the dust. A discarded event planning folder on the workbench. I photographed everything, then checked the folder. Inside were printouts for a developer appreciation night, Meadowbrook Future Projects, with a guest list of commissioners, council members, and real estate investors. An off-the-books networking event. Unauthorized use of HOA facilities. I photographed every page and locked the folder in my car. Monday morning, I filed my report. Photos, access logs, invitation attached. By afternoon, Brady received a notice of violation and a $1,500 fine. Tuesday, his lawyer demanded I recuse myself for personal bias. The board's attorney replied simply, Mrs. Collins is fulfilling her elected duties. Documented evidence stands. Wednesday brought the Meadowbrook Founders Run, 3 miles, mimosas, and small-town politics disguised as charity. I wasn't running. I worked the vendor tents, the perfect vantage point. Brady was there in sponsor gear, shaking hands like a candidate. Hannah was absent. Marcus lingered nearby, checking his phone, tense. I saw Brady and Marcus slip toward the hedge maze bordering the garden. I followed, phone recording. Can't keep covering for you, Marcus said. Hannah's talking about paternity tests. The timeline doesn't add up. So handle it, Brady snapped. You pay me to manage properties, not your personal disasters. They're the same. If she talks, people look at our books. If they look at our books, they find the vendor kickbacks, which is why you need to settle with Jade instead of provoking her. I edged closer. I'm not giving that woman anything, Brady said. She wants to fight? Fine, I've got lawyers too. Brady, she has documentation, 3 years of it. Victor Hale's helping her. The man who broke Robertson Construction is building a case. Against us. No, against you. My name's not on those contracts. You wanted full control. You get full liability. A pause, then Brady's angry breathing. You're abandoning me? I introduced you to every investor you know. I covered your affair with my girlfriend. Ex-girlfriend. She was mine when you started. She's pregnant because you convinced her I wasn't serious. Details. Ancient history. It's not ancient when she's demanding child support and threatening to expose our business unless I help her destroy you. Brady pulled out an envelope, thick with cash. 20,000. Call it hush money, child support, whatever. Make it disappear. That won't work, Marcus said. Jade already has proof. Hannah's silence won't save you. Your wife will bury you. Then we make her stop, Brady said. I shifted. Too loud. Marcus turned. Someone's there. I ran. Brady shouted, "Stop her!" Footsteps pounded behind me through twisting paths. I hit end at a fountain. No exit. They closed in. "Give me the phone," Brady ordered. "No." "Don't make this worse. I just recorded bribery and conspiracy. That's not worse, that's evidence." Marcus raised his hands. "We can walk away from this. I'm not the one trespassing and bribing people on HOA property," I said. Brady lunged, grabbing my wrist. We struggled until Marcus said, "Stop. There are cameras." Brady froze. "What?" "Security cameras, installed last month after the vandalism." There weren't any, but he didn't know that. He dropped my wrist, looking for lenses that didn't exist. I ran, weaving through the maze until I burst back into the 5K crowd, hair disheveled, knees grass-stained. Perfect. At the volunteer tent, I said loudly, "My husband just tried to grab my phone. I need to send evidence to my lawyer." Phones appeared instantly. Margaret Chen handed me her tablet. Within minutes, the video was sent to my lawyer and to Victor. 10 minutes later, Officer Bloom arrived, off duty, but official. "Jade, are you hurt?" "No, just shaken." "Do you want to file a report?" "Not yet, but record this. Brady Collins and Marcus Hale confronted me in the hedge maze, tried to take my phone, and I want them removed from the event." Daria nodded. "I can do that. Where are they now?" "Probably still in the maze, looking for security cameras that don't exist." She radioed the event security team, off-duty officers working the charity detail, and gave them instructions. Then she turned back to me. "Jade, this is escalating. If your husband is getting physical, he's getting desperate. The board meeting is tomorrow night. After that, his vendor relationships are finished, and probably his business license too. He knows it. Which makes him dangerous. Which makes him predictable." I showed her the video on my phone, Brady and Marcus, the envelope of cash, the conversation about covering up fraud. He's going to try one more play to discredit me before that meeting. I just need to be ready. Daria watched the video, her cop face giving nothing away. Then she said quietly, "This is evidence of potential criminal activity. You should give this to the prosecutor's office." "I will. After the board meeting. Right now, I need Brady focused on the HOA violations, not fleeing the state." She didn't look happy about it, but she nodded. "Okay, but if he tries anything else, anything at all, you call me immediately. Promise?" "Promise." By the time the 5K wrapped up, the gossip network had already processed the incident into 3 different versions. Brady attacked me, not quite true. I ambushed Brady in the maze, definitely not true. And Marcus Hale was somehow involved in both the assault and Hannah's pregnancy. Actually true, but for complicated reasons. I went home, well, to Leah's house, and found a bottle of wine waiting on the kitchen counter with a note. "Heard about the maze incident. You're a warrior. Drink this and rest. Tomorrow's the big one." Tomorrow was indeed the big one. The vendor review meeting that would determine whether Brady's carefully constructed real estate empire survived, or whether it collapsed under the weight of his own poor choices and documented violations. I poured the wine, opened my laptop, and reviewed my presentation one more time. The HOA board meeting room held exactly 48 people at maximum capacity. By 6:45 on Thursday evening, we had 72 people crowded into every available space, with another 20 standing in the hallway trying to hear through the open door. Everyone wanted to see the Brady Collins show. I sat in the secretary's position at the front table, between the treasurer and the vice president. My presentation materials were organized in a neat folder. My hands were steady. I'd worn the same navy dress I'd worn to the restaurant. A deliberate choice. People remembered clothes. Brady sat in the third row with his lawyer, a sharp-faced woman named Patricia Reeves, who specialized in civil litigation. Marcus was 2 rows behind them, looking like he wanted to be anywhere else. Hannah wasn't present. Wise choice. The board president, Daniel Whitmore, called the meeting to order at 7 p.m. sharp. We moved through the standard agenda items. Pool renovation was on schedule. Holiday decoration guidelines were approved with amendments. The treasurer's report showed healthy reserves. Then we reached item 3. Review of contractor relationships and potential conflicts of interest, Daniel read. Mrs. Collins, as compliance secretary, you filed the initial inquiry that triggered this review. Would you like to present your findings? I stood, opened my folder, and connected my laptop to the projector. Thank you, Mr. President. Over the past 3 months, during routine compliance inspections, I noticed several irregularities in our vendor contracts and billing statements. Specifically, I observed multiple instances where contractors performing work for association properties were also affiliated with board members or their business interests without proper disclosure as required by our charter. The first slide appeared, a simple organizational chart showing Brady's company, Collins Properties LLC, and its network of subsidiary businesses and regular contractors. Brady Collins serves on our pool renovation committee and has voting authority on vendor selection. He also owns or partially owns 4 companies that regularly bid on association contracts. Patricia Reeves stood. Objection. This is clearly a personal vendetta disguised as Ms. Reeves. Daniel interrupted gently. This isn't a court of law. Mrs. Collins is presenting factual findings to the board. Mr. Collins will have an opportunity to respond. Patricia sat down, her expression tight. I continued to the next slide, a detailed comparison of bids submitted by Brady's contractors versus independent companies. In each of these projects, contractors affiliated with Collins Properties submitted bids that were 15 to 25% higher than comparable independent bids, yet were awarded the contracts. Additionally, in 3 instances, work billed to association common areas appears to have actually been performed at private properties managed by Collins Properties. Murmurs rippled through the room. I saw several board members exchanging glances. Next slide, the landscaping invoice from my own house, side by side with the HOA billing statement for common area improvements that happened on the same dates, billed by the same crew. This $12,000 project was billed to the association for repairs to the main entrance landscaping. However, photographic evidence shows the main entrance remained unchanged during this period, while my personal residence, managed by Collins Properties, received extensive new landscaping. More murmurs, louder now. Brady's face was carefully neutral, but his hands gripped the armrests of his chair. There are 16 similar instances across the past 2 years, totaling approximately $63,000 in questionable billings. I've provided full documentation to the board attorney for legal review. Daniel cleared his throat. Mr. Collins, would you like to respond to these allegations? Brady stood, his courtroom smile in place. Absolutely. First, I want to make it clear that my personal relationship with Mrs. Collins has unfortunately deteriorated, and I believe this presentation is motivated by that breakdown rather than genuine concern for association finances. Several people shifted uncomfortably. The personal attack strategy. Second, all of the contracts Mrs. Collins referenced were approved through proper channels. If there were billing errors, they were honest mistakes. Contractors sometimes misapply invoices between projects. I'm happy to work with the treasurer to audit any questionable charges and make appropriate corrections. It was a good defense, reasonable, apologetic without admitting guilt, painting me as the vindictive spouse, which is why I'd prepared for it. Mr. Collins, I said, Can you explain why several of these billing errors occurred during weeks when you personally submitted the vendor payment requests? I clicked to the next slide, email headers showing Brady forwarding invoice approvals to the treasurer with timestamps that match the questionable charges. His smile tightened. I forward a lot of emails. I don't personally review every line item. What about this email? Another slide. Brady's message to a landscaping contractor. Bill the HOA for the Sycamore Court project. Use code 147 common area main entrance, same as last time. The room went very quiet. Patricia Reeves stood again. Where did you obtain that email? If you accessed my client's private communications without authorization, I obtained it from the HOA email server, where it was archived as part of official association business. Mr. Collins sent it from his association committee email address to a vendor working on association projects. It's not private communication, it's official records. Daniel leaned forward. Mr. Collins, did you instruct contractors to bill personal projects to association accounts? It's not what it looks like. That was a complicated situation where it's a yes or no question. Brady's lawyer touched his arm, whispered something. He sat down. Given the seriousness of these allegations, Daniel said, I'm recommending we immediately suspend all contracts with Collins Properties and affiliated entities pending a full forensic audit. The board attorney will review the documentation and advise on whether we need to involve law enforcement. Second, said the treasurer. All in favor? 7 hands went up. Only one abstention, a friend of Brady's mother who looked deeply uncomfortable. Motion passes. Mr. Collins, you're removed from all association committees effective immediately, and your vendor access privileges are revoked pending the audit results. This meeting is adjourned. The room erupted into conversation. People crowded around me, asking questions, offering support, demanding copies of the evidence. Brady and his lawyer pushed through the crowd toward the exit, his face a mask of controlled fury. I saw him look back at me once, and the expression in his eyes was pure hatred. Good. Hatred I could work with. Hatred made people sloppy. At 10:30 that night, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Hello? Mrs. Collins, this is Hannah Vale. I sat up straighter on Leah's couch, suddenly very awake. Hannah, this is unexpected. I need to talk to you. Not about Brady, about Marcus, and about what I did to you. I'm listening. There was a long pause, filled with what sounded like traffic noise. She was calling from her car, probably. A moving car, from the sound of it. I've been thinking about the restaurant, about what you said, about checking my messages with Marcus. I went back through everything, and you were right. The timing doesn't work. Brady can't be the father. I know. Why didn't you tell me? You could have destroyed me that night, but you just walked away. I told you to check your messages. What you did with that information was your choice. I confronted Marcus. He admitted everything. The affair, the lies Brady told both of us, the business fraud. He said Brady convinced him that you were the problem, that you were holding Brady back, that once you were out of the picture, everything would be better. Classic Brady. He's very good at making people believe his version of reality. I'm pregnant with a baby whose father is my boyfriend's business partner. My boyfriend is being investigated for fraud, and I'm probably going to lose my job when this all comes out. My life is ruined. Your life isn't ruined. Your plans changed. There's a difference. She laughed, a harsh sound. You're being very generous for someone I helped humiliate in public. You didn't humiliate me, Hannah. You thought you were part of a love story where you rescued a man from his broken marriage. Brady wrote that script. He directed that scene. You and I were just actors who didn't know we were in different plays. Another long pause. Then, Marcus wants to cut a deal. He's willing to testify about the vendor fraud, the kickbacks, all of it. He thinks if he cooperates, he can avoid criminal charges. That's probably smart. He wants me to talk to you first, to ask if you'll consider not pressing charges against him if he helps build the case against Brady. I thought about that. Marcus had definitely participated in the fraud, but he'd also been manipulated by Brady almost as thoroughly as Hannah and I had, and his testimony would be invaluable. Tell Marcus I'll consider it. But I want something in exchange. What? I want him to admit, on record, that he's the father of your baby. I want a signed, witnessed statement that Brady Collins knew the baby wasn't his and used your pregnancy anyway as a weapon to publicly shame me. And I want him to testify to that fact if this goes to court. He'll do it. He's terrified enough that he'll do anything. Then we have a deal. Tell him to contact the HOA attorney directly. They'll arrange the testimony. Thank you, Hannah said quietly. I know I don't deserve. Hannah, we both fell for the same man's lies. The difference is I had more time to see through them. Learn from this. Be smarter next time. There won't be a next time. I'm moving back to Minnesota after the baby comes, starting over where nobody knows this story. Good luck. She hung up. I sat there in the dark, Leah's house quiet around me, and felt a strange sense of closure clicking into place. Marcus would flip. The HOA would file fraud charges. Brady would probably lose his real estate license and face civil judgments that would take years to pay off. Not prison, not violence. Just a slow, bureaucratic dismantling of everything he'd built, using the same systems he'd exploited for profit. Perfect. The Founders Gala was scheduled for Saturday night, a rescheduled event that had been postponed from September due to weather. In the aftermath of the board meeting, several people suggested canceling it entirely, given the circumstances, but Elaine Collins, Brady's mother and the gala committee chair, insisted it proceed as planned. We don't let personal drama interfere with community traditions, she announced via email to the entire planning committee. Personal drama, as if her son hadn't just been exposed for stealing from the neighborhood. I decided to attend, not out of any desire for social interaction, but because I knew Brady would be there, and I knew he'd try something. One last desperate play to salvage his reputation or discredit me or both. Let him try. I wore black, a simple dress that looked expensive but wasn't, paired with the pearl earrings Victor's late wife had given me, armor disguised as elegance. Leah drove with me, moral support and witness. You know this is probably a terrible idea, she said as we pulled into the country club parking lot. Probably, but I want to see his face when everyone who matters realizes he's finished. You're kind of terrifying when you're calm like this. Thank you. The country club looked like something from a vintage postcard. White columns, soft lighting, carefully cultivated gardens. Inside, the ballroom glittered with crystal and carefully arranged floral centerpieces. The guest list included everyone who mattered in Meadowbrook: board members, business owners, the mayor, several county officials, Brady's former target demographic. I arrived at 7:30, fashionably on time. The room was already half full, people clustering in their familiar social groups. I saw Margaret Chen and the PTA contingent near the bar, Victor Hale, looking elegant in a gray suit, talking with Daniel Whitmore near the windows, and Brady, standing near the entrance with his mother, greeting arrivals like he was hosting the event rather than attending under a cloud of scandal. He saw me. Our eyes met across the room. He smiled, that charming, confident smile I'd fallen for 8 years ago, and started walking toward me. Jade, he said warmly, as if we were old friends meeting at a pleasant social event. I'm glad you came. I was hoping we could talk. We don't have anything to talk about. Please, just 5 minutes. There's a private room off the main hall. We can discuss this like adults. Every instinct screamed trap, but I also knew this was his last chance to try to control the narrative before the evidence became public. And I wanted to hear what he thought he could possibly say to fix this. 5 minutes, I agreed. But Leah comes with me. That's fine. He led us to a small meeting room off the main ballroom, probably meant for board meetings or private dinners. Brady closed the door behind us, and suddenly his pleasant expression disappeared. "You've destroyed my life," he said flatly. "I hope you're proud of yourself." "I documented your crimes. You destroyed your own life?" "Those weren't crimes. Those were business arrangements, creative bookkeeping. Everyone does it." "Everyone doesn't do it, Brady. Most people understand that stealing from their neighbors is wrong. I was borrowing. I was going to pay it back once the new development deals closed. With money you would have stolen from those developments. That's not paying it back, that's a spiral." He paced the small room like a caged animal. "I needed capital. The projects needed cash flow. You don't understand how business works." "I understand that you're a thief who got caught." His expression shifted to something uglier. "You think you've won? You haven't won anything. You're still the barren wife everyone pitied. You're still the woman who couldn't keep her husband happy. That doesn't change just because you found some paperwork." Leah stepped forward. "Hey, you don't get to talk to her like that." Brady ignored her, focused entirely on me. "I made you somebody, Jade. Before me, you were nobody, a small-time decorator with no connections and no prospects. I brought you into this community. I gave you status, and this is how you repay me? By refusing to let you scapegoat me for your own inadequacies? Yes, that's exactly how I repay you. I gave you everything. You gave me lies wrapped in pretty promises. You gave me years of blaming myself for problems you created. You gave me a front-row seat to your systematic betrayal of everyone who trusted you. I loved you. No, Brady. You loved what I represented, the supportive wife, the perfect accessory. You loved having someone who believed your version of reality." He moved closer, his voice dropping to something intimate and dangerous. "Last chance, Jade. Drop the charges. Tell the board it was a misunderstanding. Walk away quietly. I'll give you the house, a fair settlement, whatever you want. I don't want anything from you. I just want you to face consequences for once in your life." "Then you're making a mistake." "Is that a threat?" "It's a promise. You want to play hardball?" "Fine. I'll make sure everyone knows about your little alliance with Victor Hale, about how a destroying old man with nothing to lose helped you fabricate evidence because he's always hated me. About how you manipulated Hannah and Marcus into lying because you couldn't accept that your husband wanted someone better." I looked at him, really looked at him, and saw clearly for the first time what I'd been refusing to see for years. The narcissism, the entitlement, the absolute conviction that consequences were for other people. "Go ahead," I said calmly. "Tell whatever story you want. The evidence speaks for itself. Evidence can be misinterpreted. Witnesses can be discredited. I have lawyers, Jade, good ones, and I have friends who will testify that you've been unstable, vindictive, obsessed with destroying me because I wanted a relationship. Then let them testify. Let's see whose story holds up better in court." His hands clenched into fists. For a moment I thought he might actually hit me. Then the door opened and Officer Daria Bloom stepped in, still in her dress uniform from the event detail. "Everything okay in here?" Her voice was casual, but her hand rested near her service belt. Brady's posture immediately relaxed, the threatening energy dissipating into something more socially appropriate. "Fine, officer. Just a private conversation." "Mrs. Collins? You all right?" "Yes, we were just finishing." Brady gave me one last look, part hatred, part desperation, and walked out. Leah let out a breath. "That was intense." Daria closed the door. "I was watching from the hallway. If he'd actually touched you, I would have intervened sooner." "Thank you. Jade, he's escalating. After tonight, after people see the full scope of what he did, he's going to be dangerous. Promise me you'll be careful." "I will." We returned to the ballroom, where the evening's program was beginning. Elaine Collins took the microphone to welcome everyone and thank the sponsors. Her voice was steady, her smile fixed, but I saw the strain around her eyes. Then Daniel Whitmore approached the microphone. Before we continue with dinner, I need to make a brief announcement regarding association business. The room quieted. People turned to listen. This week, the board reviewed serious allegations of financial impropriety involving one of our residents and former committee members. After examination of extensive documentary evidence, we've referred the matter to county prosecutors for potential criminal fraud charges. The individual in question has been removed from all association positions and committees, pending the outcome of the investigation. He didn't say Brady's name. He didn't have to. Everyone knew. I watched Brady's face across the room, watched him realize that his last chance at social rehabilitation had just evaporated, watched his mother's expression go from controlled dignity to barely suppressed fury. Then, to my surprise, Elaine Collins stood up. She walked to the microphone, gently displaced Daniel, and faced the crowd. "I think everyone knows my son is the subject of that investigation," she said, her voice clear and cutting. "And I want to make something absolutely clear. The Collins family does not tolerate dishonesty, theft, or the abuse of community trust. If my son is guilty of these allegations, and the evidence certainly suggests he is, then he will face appropriate consequences without interference or protection from his family." The room was absolutely silent. Even Brady looked shocked. "My late husband built his reputation on integrity. I won't allow that legacy to be tarnished by anyone, including my own son, who thought he was clever enough to steal from his own neighbors while maintaining a facade of respectability. You should all know that I've personally reviewed the evidence compiled by Mrs. Collins in her capacity as compliance secretary, and I find her work to be thorough, accurate, and professionally conducted." She looked directly at Brady. "You humiliated yourself. You humiliated our family. And you tried to destroy a good woman to cover your own failures. I'm ashamed to call you my son tonight." Then she walked off the stage and out of the ballroom, leaving a wake of stunned silence behind her. Brady stood frozen for a moment, his face cycling through disbelief, rage, and something that might have been grief. Then he too walked out, Patricia Reeves hurrying after him. Margaret Chen was the first to start whispering. Within seconds, the entire room buzzed with conversation. I caught Victor's eye across the room. He raised his glass slightly in a subtle toast. "Well played," his expression said. The rest of the gala proceeded in a strange, excited atmosphere, half funeral, half celebration. People kept approaching me to offer support, to express shock, to share their own suspicions about Brady's business practices. I accepted it gracefully, made appropriate responses, and counted down the minutes until I could leave. At 10:30, Leah and I walked out to the parking lot together. The night was cool and clear, stars visible despite the ambient light from the club. "So that's it?" Leah asked. "It's really over?" "The public part is. The legal part will take months, probably years. But yes, the important part is finished." We reached our cars. Leah had driven separately, and she hugged me tightly. "You're my hero, you know that? Most people would have just taken the settlement and walked away quietly. Most people probably should. I'm just stubborn." "No, you're brave. There's a difference." She drove off, and I stood alone in the parking lot for a moment, letting the reality of it all sink in. My marriage was over. My husband's career was destroyed. My community would gossip about this for years, and I felt free. I got in my car and started the engine. As I pulled out of the parking lot, my phone buzzed with a text. "Victor. Moving truck is scheduled for midnight, as planned. I'll meet you at the house." Right. The final piece. While Brady had been focused on the gala, on trying to save his reputation and threaten me into submission, I'd been executing the last move in a campaign he'd never seen coming. I'd scheduled a moving truck, paid for with my own money, to remove my personal property from our shared house. Every item I'd brought into the marriage, Every piece of furniture I'd purchased, every book and dish and decoration that was mine. The HOA had suspended Brady's access privileges as part of his removal from committees, which meant his key fob wouldn't work on the community gates until he paid his accumulated fines and went through a reinstatement review, which meant that at midnight, when the moving truck arrived, Brady wouldn't be able to get back into the development to stop me. I drove to the house, where the truck was already waiting. 2 professional movers, pre-briefed on exactly what to take and what to leave. Victor stood on the sidewalk, watching with quiet satisfaction. "Precise timing," he observed. "I learned from the best." We worked efficiently. My clothes, my books, my grandmother's china, the staging furniture I'd purchased for work, the artwork from my office, even the fancy coffee maker I'd bought myself for our anniversary after Brady forgot it entirely. By 1 a.m., the house looked sterile and empty. All that remained was Brady's furniture, his clothes, his possessions. The bones of a life stripped of anything that made it home. I stood in the empty living room for a moment, remembering how excited I'd been when we first moved in, how I'd planned every detail of the decoration, imagining the family dinners and holiday gatherings we'd host. None of it had happened the way I'd imagined, but that was okay. Reality was better than the fantasy, because reality was honest. I heard a car engine approaching, fast, angry. Brady's truck roared down the street and screeched to a stop in front of the house. He got out, saw the moving truck, saw me standing in the doorway, and his face contorted with rage. "What are you doing?" "Moving my personal property. Everything in that truck belongs to me. You can't just take—" "I can, actually. I have receipts for every item. My lawyer has copies. Nothing in that truck is marital property subject to division." He started toward me, but Victor stepped between us. "Mr. Collins, I suggest you stay where you are. Get out of my way, old man. I'm a witness to a legitimate property removal. If you interfere, you'll be adding theft and interference with a legal proceeding to your growing list of problems." Brady's fists clenched. "This is my house." "Your house," I said from the doorway, "with a $12,000 HOA lien against it for unpaid violation fines, sitting on property you can no longer access without board approval, purchased with mortgages you can barely afford now that your contractor income is gone. Your house. Your problem." The automated sprinkler system chose that moment to activate, a scheduled midnight watering that I'd forgotten about until now. Water jetted across the lawn in arching streams, soaking the grass and misting the driveway. Brady stood in the spray, drenched within seconds, while I remained dry in the doorway. It was such perfect symbolism that I almost laughed. "Goodbye, Brady," I said. "Enjoy your house." I walked to my car, Victor beside me. The movers had already left, taking my belongings to a storage facility where I'd sort through them later. As I drove away, I looked in the rearview mirror one last time. Brady stood in his driveway, soaked by sprinklers, locked out of his own community by the bureaucracy he'd once controlled, watching the woman he'd tried to destroy walk away victorious. The HOA lights flickered and hummed. The sprinklers hissed like whispers spreading through the neighborhood. And I drove toward whatever came next, knowing I'd fought back using nothing but truth, patience, and the power of documentation. No violence, no law enforcement, no dramatic imprisonment. Just a slow, methodical dismantling of a man who thought rules didn't apply to him. I smiled as I turned onto the main road, leaving Meadowbrook Estates and Brady Collins behind me. Some revenges aren't about destruction. They're about exposure. And exposure, in a place like Meadowbrook where reputation is everything, was the most devastating weapon of all.